Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connection, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics, Reconnecting to the Essence of You. My guest today is Lynda Samphire. She's a guide, intuitive, and light language speaker who invites people into the real work of aligning with their inner knowing and stepping into the creative, sovereign life they're here to live. Her work bridges the practical and the mystical, creating spaces where nervous system regulation, dreamwork, and spiritual reconnection meet. Her work is also rooted in the belief that true change begins in the liminal, in the unseen moments where inside lands and the body remembers. Well, I love that, and I know this is going to be a very, very engaging conversation. Hello, Lynda. Welcome to Back to Basics.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here. Yeah, I'm excited for this conversation too.
Me too, because every time I do research for my podcast, I learn something, obviously, from every guest. But half the stuff that I read about you, I don't understand. So I'm like, this is going to be great. I'm going to have a window, and obviously my audience as well, to very new concepts. But I am, in spirit, a firm believer of what I just read, which is, reconnection and just, the spiritual world and the physical world intertwined in ways that sometimes we don't understand. And so I'm very honored that you said yes. Mm-hmm. And I would like to start, if you don't mind, with the very beginning of your story and your journey. And you as a young girl, what, a little bit of your upbringing, whatever you can share about what you envisioned or dreamed about becoming. And really, if anything, back then hinted to you where you are right now in terms of, dreams and future life.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. My journey began right in the beginning, 2 years old, deep early loss. My mother passed. And while I couldn't name what was happening inside, it put me in survival mode. The world, obviously, we lose our mother at a very young age at 2. We're not understanding what's happening, and the world can feel very unsafe. So it stayed in my system. My nervous system kind of became survival mode. Very high functioning, hyper awareness, always emotionally armored. And I started operating from the place of functioning anxiety, but not aware of it. I didn't know. Always pleasing, always trying to do better, prove my worth, earn my love, moving through these places and then looking for validation outside of myself. And it was just always that temporary feeling of, yes, it would serve at the moment, and then it would always repeat itself. And so it was a very big cycle for me to be moving through. I was, but along the way, I was always a big dreamer. Like I always had these huge dreams. I would dream of my mother. I would, it woke up kind of those deepest parts of myself and addressed those parts I was bypassing. So after years of living in functioning anxiety, of doing every type of education and certification I could, because then the next modality was going to be it, I finally, about probably 5 years ago, after being in the healing arts for 20 years, invested in myself. I started working with my dreams more. I started working with plant medicine, and I started really focusing on the central nervous system. And it was then that there became this very profound trust where I became operating more from my heart. And I realized that I was sitting in this space of in between who I used to be and who I'm becoming. And there was this huge transformational quietness and stillness, because I stopped trying to fix myself and I started listening and trusting to my wisdom. I had always been highly intuitive, psychic, and not nourishing it, always questioning it, always thinking, oh, well, this is for some, not for me. Everything came flooding in. And it wasn't because I was escaping through plant medicine or because I was living out a reality of my dreams. It was because I trusted myself and I remembered. And so it was the remembering that came forward of who I was. And that's how I began doing this work where I felt really, really aligned.
Wow, that's well, first of all, I'm sorry that, the thought of anybody losing a parent so young, losing a parent is already traumatic at whatever age, but just at 2 years old, that I can imagine how really has an impact on the human being, it's the most intimate
Mhm.
connection I think one can have
Mhm.
is with one's mother. And the father too, but the mother, I think most people agree that we come from the female at the end of the day. And so it's, yeah, so I hold space for you in there, but it
Aw,
sounds
thank
like
you.
all the the journey and all your achievement. And I think, to be honest, the world needs more of these conversations because they're either strange, and like every time I've had on the show too, and I'm a deeply religious person as well, so it's almost like people wanna label and keep all these things apart. Like, oh well, if you're religious, then you don't get curious about any of these practices like the psychic world and all these, and to me it's just the spiritual realm, and there's an interconnection there. So I am so happy that we're going to learn so much about what you do. I
Mm.
know that one of the things that was in your bio was that you specialize in microdosing guidance and integration. And I purposely left it out because I say this is at first a great question, but second, I felt kind of dumb reading something that I don't even know what it means. So why don't you share? I accept that I'm not familiar with that term of microdosing and
Yeah, thank
guidance.
you. I wasn't either. I had heard things, people talking about it here and there, and I would have never, we're talking about the psychedelic realm, right? The psychedelics on a very sub-perceptual level where we're not altering ourselves. And they found me. I had always wanted to maybe experiment or try because I'm an experiencer. But I needed the right person. I needed someone that I felt very, very safe with. And so I began microdosing very small amounts of psilocybin. Um, and it was that point that something started to shift in me, where we're working with our default mode network, our behavioral and neural pathways begin to shift a little. And then I worked with someone with integrating what was coming up, our emotions, our feeling. We begin to feel again and we begin to remember. I specialize in psilocybin. However, I work very, very closely with the mushroom Amanita muscaria, which is the red and white mushroom. So, very much in our world, as we see the emojis and we have Alice in Wonderland. However, as a healing modality, not something that we've overlooked. She's misunderstood. So, I had a beautiful guide bring her to me, and she works directly with our central nervous system, which I had noticed that we're doing our work where yoga, meditation, We're doing all the modalities, but something's not holding. It's not becoming completely sustainable. And it was that gripping of the nervous system. And so Amanita came in and know that these medicines, we're not working with altered states. We're working with a very subperceptual, grounded, embodied state, so that we come into our humanism. And with Amanita muscaria, she works with our GABA receptors. And so think of our glutamate GABA system, where the glutamate is our on switch to the brain and our GABA is our off switch. If we're in that stress level, even low stress, high functioning, anxiety, and moving through the world, our GABA pedal is off and our glutamate, think of the gas pedal, is driving all the way down. So we're not sleeping. Our creative mode is shut down. We are no longer connected and feeling aligned with self. It's even hard to meditate at times. What happens is this beautiful mushroom is agonist to GABA. So the brain grabs onto it and moves down our spinal system and puts us into parasympathetic mode. And it's very, very under the surface. She is, I feel, an elder. She's known as one of the oldest mushrooms on the planet, and she holds so much lineage. So it's taking us back to our roots, who we are, and the remembering. So I began working with her a lot in microdosing. So think of her as we would till the field. And then psilocybin comes in and aerates. We begin working with the emotions. We begin feeling and what's coming up. We begin connecting again to our creativity and become the co-creator.
Oh, wow. This is almost like a class on 101 where you're like, okay, I'm gonna rewatch this interview so that I can get everything. But it sounds
it's a lot.
Sounds very interesting. I definitely think the explanation about the the neural system, and I've had other experts and even doctors talk about it and really connect those dots in terms of our nervous system and yeah, and just our inner world. That it's definitely a fascinating. And I know then that you also in the same sentence, and this is almost because I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one not familiar with any of this. You also mentioned that you use or are an expert on ceremonial containers.
Yes, I am.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I hold space for larger doses. And I, with a colleague, am part of a space called Spirit of Life Retreats. And we hold them throughout the 2 to 3 a year. We have one actually coming up soon. And we move into this space where we're completely in nature. And this beautiful, beautiful lodge. And we start with connecting to the land with Amanita tea, really soothing, restoring the system. And then we're going to go more into a large journey the next day. I really, really feel that these medicines require a relationship, that they are relational. They're not an escape. They're not a fixing. They're relational. So we start microdosing. I like people to microdose before going into these larger spaces. From there, it's like our dream world. It's but bigger, more in our face, where we begin opening up, maybe going to the core of what's keeping us stuck, opening up creativity channels, and moving into a space where we can really, really look inside ourselves, and then heal.
Very interesting. And so, in your experience, what do you think it's our biggest, limitations as human beings that we have? Is that if that something happened traumatic back then that, as you say, kind of impacted our nervous system or our brain or something like that, and we cannot tap into it, or what is it that how do we fix ourselves in a way? Is this the only way, or this is, as you said, a lot of people do meditation, yoga, other tools, right? Praying, all these things to activate the spirituality in us. So what do you see in terms of why humanity itself, it's probably seems so detached from the spiritual realm?
That's a great question, because that's exactly what's happening. Yeah. It's a forgetting, it's a conditioning. And these medicines really are the deconditioning. Another piece to it is we're missing out on this whole area when we sleep. We're so into do, fix it, get away, looking outside of ourselves. We need to come inwards. When we go into our sleep state, we have this golden opportunity to actually have conversations with our soul, where our soul can speak to us, where we're bypassing that rational mind, where we're not figuring it out, where we're not trying to fix ourselves and be better, better, better. The soul is speaking to us through symbols. And when we start connecting to that, which these medicines begin opening that up for us, because then the spirit, the soul, the subconscious, the highest part of us can speak to us. We're just not listening. So it's more about listening rather than the doing, which goes against everything, right? We think, okay, we got to do this, and we got to do this, and I'm telling people to just really play in the silence, play in the liminal space, play in the in-between, and sit there, and then everything begins to open up. So we begin learning our own symbols that the soul is speaking to us. And that then becomes in our waking state too, where we're seeing numbers. The pain in my shoulder is a symbol.
Mm.
So we become the observers of ourselves rather than trying to be this or this. All the shoulds begin to drift away, and we're going into, this is me, this is who I am, and the remembering comes in. So bringing back sleep, which I think is the number one medicine, working in this area. I run Dream Series, and we run it alongside Amanita Muscaria because it's increasing our REM, and learning to work with this, and then using our wake state to observe.
Mm. Interesting. I've always been fascinated by dreams. Actually, I'm the kind of person that has a ton of dream books, and I'm the kind of one that it's always like I know there's something my dreams try to tell me,
I
and
love that. Yeah.
and it's a little bit frustrating because it's almost like you're listening Chinese and you don't speak Chinese. And so it's almost like a missed opportunity for me. How I experience my own dreaming thing is like I know there's something on that dream that I need to pay attention, but I don't know the code to decipher it. So that's always been fascinated with the dream books that
Yes.
that I look and it's like dreams interpreted, but I do think that definitely, I mean, to when you mention something in that in between, in state of consciousness, so to speak, that needs a special language or a special way of special awareness to really understand, that what are we manifesting in those dreams, and what are we being told?
Yeah, beautiful. I love that you pay attention to your dreams. I think but yeah, what's our soul saying? So we're really conditioned again to go outside of ourselves, which, I mean, I love the looking at the symbol. What does that mean? But if, let's say I dream of a surfboard and you dream of a surfboard, and when you were young, that surfboard meant fun with your friends. You loved surfing. You felt free. For me, I had a terrible accident and broke my leg or something. If that symbol is showing up, it's going to be different concepts, right? So when we're moving through life, yes, we have all these imprints, all these experiences that begin shifting that nervous system and that protection mode. Our dreams, our soul will speak to us. Maybe it's a nightmare. because we need to listen. It's screaming at us. And the first thing I'd love people to do is to just track, just red ball, blue surfboard, green car, not needing to know what it is. We always want to excavate and know what it is, the figuring out and go outside of ourselves, rather than first just begin doing that. Right there is going to start cognitively opening up our default mode network. It's going to start soothing our nervous system. And the soul's like, okay, they're paying attention. It's the feeling of something. It's the feeling. It's showing us that, like, okay, well, this dream had this in it, this in it, this symbol, all these symbols in it. But I felt really frustrated. Okay, so what if we're being spoken to by spirit, the soul, saying it's frustration, that's your thoughts are just consumed with frustration throughout the day, and that is blocking the co-creating. So it really is about feeling the feeling. Like, what's it feel? I have people run the dream through their bodies, and take the symbol and just run it through, not needing to know what the symbol is. If there's a person in your dream, we get all these dreams of a lot of times of past people showing up, right? And it's like, okay, what is the aspect that you're noticing? What happens when you run that through your body? Because you are everything in the dream. You are the bug, you are the plane, you are the person. And so we're looking at either what's wanting to come up, or where we're vibrating and consumed throughout the day, and we're creating the dream.
That's as I say, every subject has like, oh wow, there's a lot in there, but yeah, that definitely the world of dreams. And I pick up that when you say I've always been a dreamer, and I love how you were really to the dream, not a dreamer as a goal, but a dreamer as the dream.
Always,
which
yes.
which most people, we don't define ourselves as dreamer, because I feel that dreams are something, again, that we put on the side. Oh, I had this dream, or I had this dream, and then we put it on the side, and that's it. And we don't deal with that anymore. And so, but yeah, so that's definitely very insightful what you just shared. And so, in all this work that you do, and the sessions that you take, you work with people. I know you also mentioned that you are a light language speaker. So it's probably the last thing I didn't understand that I haven't asked about. So let's tackle that one, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's a big one. That was a gift that came through that I wasn't really searching for.
Okay.
And so light language is a frequency. It's a language I feel we all speak. And I feel it was a universal language that we spoke prior to when we decided to create language so that we could communicate. We were communicating more with light language. So it's a frequency of expression. It bypasses the mind and it speaks directly to the soul. So mine was rather funny. I was in my kitchen, and I know I'd been doing a lot of work on myself, a lot of inner work. And I sneezed 3 times. And all of a sudden it came out, and I was speaking this language, very, very high pitched. It almost felt like a child or a fairy or something that had been caged up and set free, and was just speaking in this. Even speaking about it, I get chills through me. This joy that I had never really experienced before. And from there, I grabbed my phone and I hit record. And I reached out to my my guide and mentor at the time, and she says, "Oh yes, that's light language." And I'm like, "What is that?" And it's a vibration. I symbol it. Many sing it, write it, speak it, and it's a transmission. So for me, I will pair it with meditation, especially my dream series, where we're really wanting to connect to the dream world, or when we're connecting to the medicines or going into ceremony, to align the body. It balances our yin and yang, our masculine, our feminine, so that divine wisdom then flows through us, right? So it's a type of sound healing, like music. However, I speak it, and it's refined itself through the years because I'm like, well, I just can't. I mean, this just seems this high pitched, fast. And I feel I have different beings that come in, and sometimes it's very. I did some studying with African Sangoma for a summer, and a lot of ancestral started coming through. Um, I speak it a lot in the shower, right? And for myself, it can rebalance me, and we all have the capability of it. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
Very interesting. I never heard of light language, but I think that there's so much of our humanity that we don't know, don't express, don't like have learned to stay within the box. And again, I'm a very logical person, but I've always also been open to, well, if there's a whole lot of people that experience this, like, even the psychic world, a lot of people don't believe. And I say, yeah, but if there's a lot of people that are describing the same thing, there must be something, and I have to do a whole episode on it. But I just came back from Bosnia Herzegovina, where the Virgin Mary is appearing to 6 visionaries. And the story, as a Catholic, we have our beliefs. For most people, it's incredible, it's crazy, it's impossible. But when you see thousands of people on the top of a mountain waiting for the apparition, the miracle is already done. Even if you're not a Catholic or a Christian or whatever, it's you have thousands of people going through a spiritual experience at the same time, and creating energy all around that it's undeniable. And that's why people keep going back and keep going back and keep going back. So all these things that even, for the most religious people, we have, even in Catholicism, like unexplainable things, that's the basics of our faith, right? So that's why I never dismiss uh, things that I never heard about, that, of course, it takes a moment to like chew them and like, okay, how does this work? And all these things. But I think just to be open, being open to learning and being curious to listening and just letting it sink and not just dismiss it and judge them from the get-go, I think it's very important. And I'm sure, I don't know, I would be curious to hear your experience, because I'm sure that not every person you talk to, it's like that open to any of these things we're talking about. And I'm sure in my audience, I'm going to have that. I just love the fact that if you stay with us, we just learned something that we didn't know about just half an hour ago.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, the people, my clients that come to me, yeah, not all of them, I'm speaking light language too. I mean, the experience, I've had a lot of mystical experiences that, if I, I've seen angels, like I see trees, and like I see you, I've seen beings in the middle of the night when I'm awake. And for me, and that coming forward, I'd always wanted that, right? But then felt it was for other people. And then you're always questioning, well, is it, isn't it? It's this space where you finally just surrender, and we surrender into it. And that nervous system soothes down so that feel safe enough, because it can be scary, right? We can be in a space of fear when something we don't understand comes in. And that's where it gets shut off. So, we can say, okay, I think it's the more open we are. Yes. And then we're saying, well, I'm really open. However, there's probably a belief or a mindset that just needs to shift a little. And then we may ask for that, and we may sprain our ankle, right? And then we know that's, okay, well, there's some forward movement that's stopping me. That happened to me. That's why I say that when I want my big spiritual. And to begin looking at these things not as a victim, but as, okay, this is the opening. This is where it's beginning. This is where it's starting. I have to say, too, my mother passing always set me on that path of the curiosities of the mystical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're right. We go to these places where, like you explained so beautifully, where there's people are having these experiences. We can't kind of write those off. We have to really look at them. And then, but for me, I was like, oh, it must be for them and not me. That was the part that the deserving, the worthiness that needed to shift. And that came really from losing a mother at 2. So it's really about surrendering and allowing. And that's where the plant medicine came in and really shifted. Because I literally was at that place where I'm like, I felt flat. I was like, this is it. I'm something's blocking and I'm all in. And it wasn't that I needed plant medicine. That was my ally. It was that I finally just completely surrendered.
That's beautiful, beautiful and insightful. And yeah, definitely it's a journey, and it's interesting because in over 300 interviews now that I've done, that feeling of worthiness has shown up over and over and over, one way or the other, in each person's journey, like to the famous CEO, to for the spiritual guy, to the priest, to the rabbi. Like at some point in life, I think we are really set to not feel worthy. I think because the gift of life is so big. That would be probably one of my theories. It's this gift of life that we receive by being born from the divine. It's so big that then you have to make something worthy out of it, and that feeling kind of sticks with it. And it's really heavy, and I feel it even in every interview, how even the most successful people have admitted to feeling so low and so unworthy to maybe want to commit suicide, or maybe want to hurt themselves, or maybe losing everything they have just because that feeling of worthiness. So I think that's a good message for this conversation, is that we're all worthy, and there's so many ways to look within to really find that worthiness in us.
100% beautifully said, because yes, it is about, it always goes to that core of unworthiness. One of the things that came through to me in a larger journey was the frequency of love. Not like we love one another, but it's this feeling of everything is love. And so worthiness and unworthiness don't exist in that. It can't. It can't. And if you are here, you're worthy. I mean, just like a pen, it has a purpose. It's here.
It's a fact. It's a
yeah.
fact.
And really the needing to fix the stuff, we have to stop excavating all of our stuff and fixing it, and really just realize that we're going to get other people's blueprints coming on as we move through life. We're going to get the conditioning, and it's the deconditioning that comes in. And that was really the turning point for me. And it was fast. It was quick. It was really quick. I took 1 year and invested completely in myself. I shut down my practice, and then I kept maybe a handful of clients and just went inward. And not that it even takes a year, but for me, or you need to do it that way, but that's how it worked for me. And that's what it was, the investing in self, that I was worthy enough, right, to give myself the attention and love myself beyond as I ever had. Yeah, because we look back at losing a mother at 2, and people are saying, oh, well, she went to heaven. I could be the grocery store when you're 2. She just didn't come back. Yeah. And so right there can establish that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I totally agree on the deconditioning, and others call limiting belief, and just getting rid of all these stuff that really hurts us and takes us to a path of suffering, and understanding that sometimes these stories that we create for ourselves in our mind also take us down to a path of suffering that it's unnecessary, because many of those things are self-created. They're not like the facts, as you very well point out. So Lynda, I always like to give my guests an opportunity to share with us anything. Are there any projects, anything we haven't discussed? I know you do many things, but is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience? Your contact and your info is going to be on the show notes, but anything you want to share in particular?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. This is such a fun conversation. We could probably go on for hours.
Yeah, likewise, likewise.
Yeah. Well, I do, like I said, I hold retreats throughout the year. And I also run a dream series where it's a 4-week online dream series. We microdose Salmonella muscaria along with it to get back into our sleep state and ignite our dreams a bit. And we start working with that part of us because and which it doesn't require Amanita, but I think it takes us out of the fixing. So I run those, and I also offer one-on-one programs for moving into with microdosing or not. And yeah, and really just getting out of that fixing ourselves, like just knowing we're perfect exactly where we're at. So yeah.
That is very nice. Well, I am sure that this is probably going to resonate with some of the audience, so I'll have all the information out there.
Thank you.
The last question I ask all my guests is usually relates to what makes them tick, because I'm a firm believer that staying aligned with what makes us tick is part of the formula to feel that fulfillment. So besides everything we've discussed, which obviously make you tick, is there anything else that you do or any practice that you want to share that when you feel unresourced, you go and tap into that?
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Because I do get out of alignment. We all do. We are human, right? So for me, always reminding myself that this is an experience. Movement for the body, yoga. I love yin yoga, walking outside, walking in nature. If I am too consumed in my thoughts, walk. I will sleep so good if I do a walk at night. So I think we're not moving our bodies enough. And then put a journal by your bed and just write dream track a little bit without having to do anything or figure it out or what it means. So those are, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for that. It's a small, simple action, walking in nature. I have promised that at some point I'm going to pull all the answers, but definitely walking is going to be on one of the probably top 3 of the walking in nature, walking on your own. And it's such an empowering thing to do. And we all can get 15 minutes out of our busy lives. And if you today feel that you're a little bit off, just, ask your family for 15 minutes, just get your favorite music or just get in silence and just do it, and you're going to come back much happier. So I thank you, Lynda, for your time and for sharing all these aspects of life that maybe was unknown to me. So it was one of those where I took a lot of notes. I will show if I take a lot of notes, it's a good one. So I appreciate you, and thank you for joining in.
Thank you so much for having me and your audience in this beautiful space. So thank you.
Thank you. And to all of you, until the next episode of Back to Basics. Bye-bye. You've been listening to Back to Basics. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't yet, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple Podcast or any of your favorite streaming platforms. This is the best gift you can give us. Join me next week for another Back to Basics conversation. And if you want to find out about other exciting things I'm working on, visit leticialatino.com. Thank you, and until the next time.